Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. Tonight's video features true scary stories from within the confines of your home. Attic stories, basement stories, anything that takes place within the home that is truly terrifying. Sit back, relax, stay sinful. Story number 1. This happened when I was in high school, still living with my parents and my younger brother in a house in the suburbs. The area I grew up in was really quiet and safe. We lived in the Midwest, and this town was as Midwest as you can get, which means everyone knew each other, and even strangers were sweet and eager to help. Our neighborhood was a kind where every third house had the same layout, so everyone pretty much living on an equal level. No one bigger than the other. That meant everyone got along pretty well, and there was hardly any crime since everyone was coming from similar financial backgrounds, so it would be an understatement to say I felt safe where I lived. That was until these weird things started to happen. These were small things, pretty inconsequential in the moment, but when I look back at everything, I always connect them thinking there was something weird going on. It started at the beginning of my junior year of high school. One morning I had woken up early to put away my clothes, because I'm weird about these things. I made sure all my dressers and doors were closed before I left. I was the last one out of the house because I had a doctor's appointment, and the first one home. I asked to make sure later too, but when I came up to my room my door wasn't closed all the way, and my closet was completely open. I thought it was weird and brushed it off, but this happened more than once. I'd sometimes be missing t-shirts or pants after that, but told myself I was just being stupid and probably lost them somewhere. Another night, after I had gone to bed, I was woken up by the sounds of footsteps coming up the stairs. The fifth step creaked really badly, and when I heard that I woke up very quickly. I remember it clearly because I could hear it over my fan. After the footsteps stopped, I checked every room upstairs, and all the doors were closed and people were sleeping. The doors creaked pretty loudly in the night, so I would have heard something, since I was the only one who slept with their door open. I couldn't see much and everyone was sound asleep, so I went back to bed. I remember hearing it one more time. I stayed awake for a while to try to hear it again, but didn't bother getting up in case my mind was playing tricks on me. I asked my family about it casually in the morning, but everyone said they slept through the night. All of these little incidences culminated in one of the weirdest experiences I've had to date. It was halfway through the year, and I had just driven myself and my brother home from high school. I threw down my bags on the dining room table and lay down on the couch to watch some TV. My brother went downstairs to take out the dog and play some video games. I could tell by the fact there were no cars in the garage that my parents were still at work, so I put the volume on medium so I could hear when they got back. Everything was fine and I was actually starting to doze off when I hear a distinct thumping coming from upstairs. I thought it was just my imagination. I watch a lot of scary movies, so I tend to be a bit jumpy sometimes. I went back to my show, but the thumping continued for 5 minutes. And that's when I finally decided something wasn't right. I muted the TV and listened for a few minutes. It was a rhythmic thumping with occasional squeaking, and it was coming directly from up the stairs. For a second I thought it was just my dog, since he sometimes paced up and down the stairs trying to find a step to sleep on. I called for him, but my brother shouted he was downstairs with him, so I walked up the stairs to the top and listened. It was coming from directly above me. I started to get scared when I realized the only thing above the stairs was the attic. And what's more, I realized it wasn't thumping. It sounded exactly like footsteps, like someone wearing boots and pacing around the attic. Even though I was thinking the worst, I told myself to be practical. There were only 2 entrances to the attic, a small panel in the ceiling of my brother's bedroom, and a 3rd-story window outside. I checked his bedroom and the panel looked like it hadn't been touched. I then thought about how we were having trouble recently with our dish for the TV. My dad had called a repairman to come and fix it. I opened the front door and went around the back, but there was nothing on the roof. Not that I could see much because of how high up it was. Come to think of it, no van was parked around our house either. When I went back in, my brother was standing in the doorway asking what was going on, since he heard the door open. I told him about it and asked him to come check, to make sure I wasn't crazy. When we got to the top of the stairs, he gets a weird look on his face and asks, "What is that?" I felt relieved knowing it wasn't just me. I whisper, "It sounds like something walking, right?" He nods and points downstairs. I know what he's talking about and I follow him. The floors are pretty thin, so in case it's a person, we talk quietly about what to do next. I tell him about the roof and stuff, and he shakes his head saying that people were only coming later that week. We decided to call our father. When I explained everything to my dad, I could tell he didn't believe us, but was trying to be nice about it. I didn't blame him, honestly. So improbable for someone to want to be in our attic, let alone get in there. He said it's probably some kind of bird or raccoon. If it was a bird, it would have to be repeatedly slamming itself on the floor, and even then it couldn't explain how the floor creaked afterward, like someone shifting their weight. Dad just told us to wait it out, and that he would be home soon. The thumping had gone on for well over 30 minutes now, and I was still so unsure I decided I would camp in my brother's room until it stopped. After 15 minutes I realized I really had to use the bathroom. There's a bathroom door right next to his room and still under the attic. As I was washing up, I realized the footsteps were a lot louder now and directly above me. It was weird because before the thumping was loud when I was in my brother's room, meaning they were above me then. The footsteps had fucking moved to follow me. Sometimes when I'm really scared I get super angry, so I banged twice on the ceiling. I'm pretty tall for a girl, so I used my fists and shouted, "What the fuck is this?" The steps stopped. I was confused for a second until clear as day, there were two loud thumps, like someone stomping their foot twice really loud. I ran out of the bathroom to my brother, coming up the stairs mouthing, "What just happened?" The pacing had started again, so I quickly explained everything to my brother. He picked up the phone and dialed my father again. As he's trying to explain everything, I can tell my dad's not giving in again. Frustrated and scared, I take the phone from my brother, put my dad on speaker, hold the phone up to the attic and shout, "Listen to this." And all of a sudden and immediately, the footsteps stop. Like absolutely no sound whatsoever. After a minute of silence, I can hear my dad say, "What sound?" My brother and I just look at each other and bolt down the stairs. I tell my dad just to get home quick and that we would wait downstairs for him. He said he was pulling up the driveway, so we open the door and run outside. After my brother and I explain things quickly and short-breathed, he follows us upstairs to where the sound was coming from. But now there was absolutely no sound. And even though we ask him several times to take a look, he laughs and says we're just overacting, and there's nothing there. Taking out the panel might cause some damage to the ceiling, so he's pretty solid on the fact that he's not going to check it out unless he hears it for himself. Of course, the footsteps never came back, at least not when we were around or awake. My brother stayed in my room for a few days because he was so afraid, but we were unable to prove what happened to our parents. Honestly, we still don't know what even happened. Story number 2. This story happened when I was 11. I was gone to a sleepover during the summer with 5 other girls from my old softball team. This was back in 2007 when Bloody Mary, cat scratch, and telling scary stories all night was still a huge thing. After doing that, we decided to go have some fun outside. By this time, it was almost 11 to 11:30 at night. We were hitting wiffle balls, playing tag, Red Rover, etc. Since the street was well lit and we were all in a group, we decided to go for a walk. I was on a scooter and a few others had bikes, skateboards, softballs, all those fun things. The street right across from our house was a cul-de-sac, so we decided to walk there and back before going inside for the night. As we got deep in the cul-de-sac, there was one garage door open on the entire street. Being preteen girls, we gossiped about it and whispered to ourselves. We didn't see anyone in the garage when we walked by. However, we heard a crashing noise. All of us stopped dead in our tracks. We saw a man walk out and stare at us without saying a word. He was a large guy and muscular. He picked up what looked like an axe you could chop wood with. We all got scared and decided to run. After we made it back to the house, the girls and I ran into the basement. We talked about it for maybe 5 minutes and then did other things and forgot about it. We played cat scratch again and painted nails, and did other preteen girl things. Then we started to hear some strange noises. I was chosen along with 2 other girls to go investigate, since I was the biggest girl. We quietly climbed the stairs and stuck our head out to the top. The guy from the cul-de-sac was standing in our kitchen, just past the door frame. The door itself was always kept open, but the screen door was closed and locked. He was standing there chuckling menacingly. We screamed at the top of our lungs and ran down the stairs. The girl who had the party, her parents came running downstairs, and we told them what had happened. Her dad went out to investigate but didn't see anything. He then told us if we see him again, pick up the phone and call the police, and then come get him. So creepy garage guy. Let's never meet again. Story number 3. This happened a while ago at a sleepover at my friend Rose's house. We were both 10 years old at the time. Her house has 4 floors, including the basement. The floor right above the basement is the kitchen, and in her house you can hear everything through the walls. We had been watching movies all night, and it was around 2 a.m., which was pretty late for 10-year-olds to be staying up. We were sleeping on her couch in the basement. We had just turned off the lights and started to talk before we slept. About 10 minutes later, we heard footsteps. Rose has 2 other sisters, but one was a baby at the time and the other was about 8. She didn't have a cat either, so maybe it was her parents. But then she said her parents never get up in the middle of the night. She was convinced it wasn't anyone in her family, which made me convinced. We were too scared to even move, and I was shaking. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to stay up watching scary movies all night. The footsteps moved around the house. We stayed huddled next to each other on the couch for what felt like forever. The footsteps eventually stopped and we fell asleep. The next morning we asked her parents if they had been in the kitchen or living room last night. They replied no. We asked her sister and she said no. Maybe it was just our imagination, or maybe her sister was trying to scare us. But to this day I still think about it. So creepy late night visitor. Let's not meet again. Thank you all for watching. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Sinful videos. I hope everyone's enjoying their summer. And if you didn't hear this in the last video, I just released some Sinful merchandise. It's fairly basic with the Stay Sinful moniker, but I felt like my true diehard fans would appreciate this. Until we meet again, stay sinful.